Hey Virginia is sponsored in part by
Everence Financial is grateful to serve this community. As a faith-rooted financial services organization, we're dedicated to helping members grow more confident futures with their values in mind. A community that's doing better together.
Hey Virginia, I'm Kate Martin, your host. In this episode, we meet country artist and Stanton natives Wilson Fairchild. We'll explore a geologic marvel in Dayton and get an inside look at Harrisonburg's International Festival. We'll also visit the Lisanby Museum and learn about its amazing treasures. Then we'll talk to hip-hop artist Rob Boss with the Afro about his music and new ventures. Plus, we'll get to witness the release of a bald eagle. All this and more straight ahead on Hey Virginia.
There's a place where I can come home, where the foothills roll and the people are so warm. Hey, Virginia,
Country band Wilson Fairchild references Virginia in much of their music. That's because their Virginia roots run deep. Born and raised in Stanton, Will and Langdon are sons of two of the legendary Statler brothers. Their own music careers have taken them all over the country, but Virginia will always be home.
Hello everybody, I'm Will Reed.
And I'm Langdon Reed.
And we are Wilson Fairchild.
Have you ever been home Broadway and seen Ernest Tubbs' nudie suit? Or to the Hall of Fame and seen a pair of worn out cowboy boots? Or heard farewell party?
The Shenandoah Valley has been instrumental. Did you like that?
You've been reading your vocabulary book.
To our music career. Langdon and I, born and raised in Stanton. We love Stanton, we love the Valley. It's been a part of who we are. We've chosen to stay there and raise our families, and you know, what great can't you say about the Shenandoah Valley?
We've just played all kinds of festivals throughout the state of Virginia, and we travel all around, all the way to the West Coast and back. Our travels have taken us for our Wilson Fairchild experience. But it's always great to come back home, and you know you're home when you roll the windows down and you can see the mountains on either side of you, and what a special feeling that is.
You were gone. I can't stop thinking of you. I'm always gonna love you, Virginia. You're everything I need.
It's hard to believe after all these years of Langdon and I traveling around doing music that people don't know where we come from. But my dad is Harold Reed of the Statler Brothers.
And my dad is Don Reed of the Statler Brothers.
So we grew up in a musical family in and around the music business, and from the time we were kids and used to stand on the side of the stage and watch them perform and do what they did, we always wanted to be in the music business.
It is. We caught the fever early, and we traveled a lot of miles with them. Again, as he said, standing on the side of the stage and getting our perspective from the backstage view of their business. And again, we knew that's what we wanted to do. And one of the highlights of their career and of us watching them was the 4th of July that takes place in Stanton, Virginia. And that started in 1970. The Statler Brothers began that celebration, and they did it for 25 years. That's a quarter of a century.
Quarter of a century.
That's a long time to do anything.
It sure is.
And they drew in crowds from over 100,000 people from all over the world. And it's all about family and fun and food and fireworks. And what a wonderful community event that they started. And that celebration's been going on ever since.
It continued after 1994, and it's been a wonderful celebration. 4th of July has been synonymous with Stanton, and last year we performed in Stanton for the first time as Wilson Fairchild, and the reaction was great. The reception was terrific, and we decided to jump in.
Play it loud, play it proud, let's all sing along. Everybody, country on.
Virginia is home to some very interesting geological structures, including Natural Bridge and many caverns. But do you know we have a volcano? We do, or at least the remains of one. Located in Dayton, Mole Hill, as it's locally known, is full of geologic history.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, it's a young volcano, probably 50 million years old or so, which is in stark contrast to the rocks in the rocks in the Shenandoah Valley, which are considerably older, almost 10 times as old. So probably in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 million years old. So it stands out in stark contrast. Now, it's not actually a volcano itself. It's sort of the remains of the plumbing for a volcano that's no longer here. So the land surface over time, after it erupted, simply has eroded down to the level that we see now, which is essentially a thumb sticking up of rock that is more resistant to weathering and erosion than the sedimentary rocks around it. We've known for some time that there have been volcanic features, not just here in the valley, but there are also some as you go a little bit further west into Highland County as well. So that we've known for some time that there were volcanic features. It's only relatively recently that we've been able to put a number of pieces together to explain the origins of the volcano and that erupted, and how old it was. Just put some constraints on the time. Been a number of students and other faculty here that have studied it fairly extensively, as well as some of these other volcanic features. Historically, you can talk, if you go from, say, Charlottesville to the west over, you're talking roughly 1 billion years or so of geologic history. So we have some very old crystalline rocks that were metamorphosed. They were part of a mountain range that's no longer here called the Grenville Mountains. Those actually formed when continental plates came together, again, about 1 billion years ago, to form a continent not called Pangaea, but we call it Rodinia. And so that produced a mountain range that eroded down, and about 600 million years ago, it started to open up again. So it rifted. A lot of what's on top of the Blue Ridge is greenstone, we call it, and that is the remains of some of the lava that came out then. Afterwards, it got really quiet, kind of like it is today, and we started getting lots of sediments filling in. As little as 450, 470, 500 million years ago, this was a shallow marine area. It was south of the equator. And what the story I like to tell is to have people picture Bahamas. And if you think Bahamas with soft tropical breezes and little waves and clear water and white sand and palm trees and soft music in the background, and take away the music, take away the palm trees, and you're left with a lot of warm, shallow ocean where limestone is forming. So that covers a lot of the basic part of the Shenandoah Valley, explains all the limestone that we have here.
The The Harrisonburg International Festival is a festival that brings the Harrisonburg community together like no other. The International Festival is a mix of music, art, and culture that over the years has become one of the region's most celebrated festivals.
The International Festival that comes around each year is an amazing event, a wonderful time to celebrate culture, especially the cultures of which that are not readily available and seen in everyday life here in Harrisonburg.
I think sometimes people, I don't want to say maybe don't feel as comfortable to show their home identity, and so this is a space where I think they could do that.
Maybe hanging out with different people or seeing different foods or tasting different foods or music, but that's just part of it.
Over the years, seeing the evolution of the festival, it just really, I have to say that last year I was taken back by how many different kinds of foods we have. And I know we have these restaurants in town, but to see them all there and the flavors and people trying new things, that was really exciting.
That day is really busy. There are so many attendees, which is the best part about it all, is that now we know that the desire to be experienced and to immerse yourself in another person's culture is actually here in our area.
Come, you don't have to miss this. It's a great opportunity. You gotta try different food and learn about other people.
You have to go to the international, the culture at very kind, that's a very special festival. The people enjoy, they're happy, they enjoy it.
It is definitely worth your time. It's also so much fun as a family event. Bring the kids, bring your mom, bring your dad. Everybody has something to do out there, whether it's to watch and enjoy culture, or to eat food, or to hear music. So much to offer there.
Did you know that Rembrandt's wife's portrait is housed here in Harrisonburg? Or a Greco-Roman statue, also housed in Harrisonburg, was constructed from 3 different time periods? Ever hear of a spectrometer and what it's used for? You're about to find out at JMU's Lisanby Museum.
This is the Lisanby Museum, and it actually is the display area for the Madison Art Collection. The Madison Art Collection is JMU's permanent collection of fine and cultural objects that go from about 4000 BCE to present day. So we change out exhibits in this space about 4 times a year. One of the things that we've really tried to do with this space is to showcase various aspects of the collection. So we've done things like the life of Christ, which we did last Christmas time. Most recently, we've done a venue or a display on medieval manuscripts. Right after this exhibition, we're doing one on West African masking. So as you can see, we've got a nice range. We've done things, for example, on Zen Buddhism. Roman glass is another exhibition that'll be coming next year. So we've got this huge range of objects to draw from, and we work with our students and faculty to create these exhibitions that last about 2 months. And we've had objects in the collection that we've had questions about. Are they authentic? There's some odd things with them. How do we explain these? And so I actually got a chance to reach out to my science colleagues. We partnered together to purchase a handheld spectrometer. So Geology uses it, for example, in the field. ISAT uses it in their research. And I get to use this handheld spectrometer in museum studies. And what that allows us to do is look at the chemical composition of objects, which, as you'll see in a second, really allows us to say, yes, this really does come from ancient Greece, or this statue is actually made of several different ancient Roman statues which were put together at a later period. We actually have 3 ancient Roman statues that were put together. The body's probably from around 200 CE, the head probably around 50 CE, and the arm maybe as late as 400 CE. And we took various measurements of the head, of the arm, of the base, and then we compared what we were reading with the spectrometer. And you can see that the red is one reading and the blue is the other. And now it's all marble. Marble's going to read a certain amount of different chemicals. But as you look at the trace elements of the marble, you can tell that the arm is actually chemically different from that of the body. This is the one that's actually painted by Rembrandt, which is currently in the Dresden Museum in Germany. This is the one that we have. It's a beautiful painting of Saskia, who was the first wife of Rembrandt. We love Rembrandt, everybody knows Rembrandt. Anton Riedel, who was the court painter to Emperor Augustus III, and he probably painted it somewhere in the 1750s when he was visiting Dresden, Germany. So I want you to pay particular attention to the hat, to the face, and then to the dress and all that beautiful jewelry that Saskia is wearing. So if you look at the hat area through here, you can actually tell where the painting has been disturbed. All that green stuff that we're seeing through here is actually a reworking of the painting. When the feathers go that white purple, which you'll also see down here, that's sort of that purple cast and that really bright white, those have also been retouched probably within the last 50 to 100 years. But if you look at any artwork underneath a UV light, you're going to see things that you can't see using regular light. You can see it continues all the way up. The masks that we're looking at tend to be much more for ceremonial use. So this definitely a boy's coming of age mask. These are called Chihuahua masks. And they are usually danced as a couple because you have the male Chihuahua and he's got this beautiful mane that usually represents the sun. His wife, his mate, and the female Chihuahua, as you see, doesn't have that big, wonderful, bristly mane. Instead, she's got a little baby on her back. So it's an interesting thing because it's really the ceremony, the connection, that really is the important thing.
The Lisanby Museum is located in JMU's Festival Conference and Student Center. Harrisonburg native Lee Andes, aka Rob Boss with the Afro, performed hip-hop before the genre became popular. Now he's taking his love for music to the next level with his new project, Rappers on the Edge. Take a look.
My name is Lee Andes, aka Crimson Music, aka Rob Boss with the Afro. So when I was a child, my dad has been playing bluegrass music all my life. From probably 5 till I was 12, I was just on the road, and probably before that, it's just I don't remember, but I was just on the road with my dad almost every weekend to different festivals and whatnot. And I never really got interested in it myself, other than playing a couple of chords on the guitar and the mandolin. But when I first got a love for music myself, it was for hip-hop. So when I was first starting to do shows and stuff in public in Harrisonburg, it was 2009, 2010, I think, and there was zero hip-hop scene that we call it now. There was no opportunities for rappers exclusively, or even in a multi-genre setting at all. The open mics and stuff that I went to were acoustic nights at Dave's Taverna and poetry nights at the Little Grill and open mics at Taylor Down Under on campus, but there was nothing specifically for hip-hop. And I didn't have this much hair back then, but I still didn't look like a rapper either, and so no one really knew what to do with me, and it was very uncomfortable. It was a lot of fear to overcome and nerves to overcome to be able to do shows like that, where it's mostly middle-aged and older people or college age and younger, but none of them are expecting me or necessarily wanting to hear hip-hop in those environments at that time. So that was a challenge for sure. And I moved down to South Carolina with my best friend Luke. When I was down there, I got more involved in a scene that was actually available. You know, they actually have a lot of hip-hop acts down there and a very rich history in the culture. So I kind of got my stage legs really underneath me down in South Carolina. I feel like I've been able to see the scene grow night and day as opposed to where I left it from, you know. When I got back up here, of course, Grayling Sky's kind of running everything through his influence, which has been awesome because he literally saw a crack in that armor of like no hip hop through the hard metal community and the house show community. So he kind of like split it open for everyone.
Yeah, Rob Boss. Look, last year was a nightmare. Didn't ever really feel like I was quite there. But the devil really never ever fight fair. But I got a mic here to let you know the light's here. So I gotta shine here, shine bright. Running out of time here. My life about to be a monument of that price you paid until I fly away. I'm gon' write to let you know that there's still hope. Every seed you sow, expose new growth. And all these shows ain't really for me. I wanna see you free. I wanna see you breathe without that weight all up on your chest. Pray life only gives you a best. Pray you stretch when you feeling stressed. Above all else, I pray that you're blessed. Rob Boss with the afro. Crimson Music, what up?
Yeah, Rappers on the Edge is my way of paying homage to Jerry Seinfeld.
What up, everybody? It's Rob Boss with the afro. You are now watching Rappers on the Edge, and today we have a very special guest, Keynote Illage.
It's an idea that me and my best friend Luke came up with while we were watching comedians in cars getting coffee. It's a genius show, and we love it because we appreciate and love these comedians for their bits and their sets and their Netflix specials, but we don't know hardly anything about them. And Jerry was able to take these 15-minute episodes with no premise, other than just having a conversation with these people that we already look up to and respect. And so we wanted to do that, and I have a GoPro and like a car mount for it, and it had like a cool ring to it, Rappers on the Edge. I drive a Ford Edge. And so all we're gonna be talking about is the stuff that drives us as creatives, you know, whether it's the meaning behind lyrics or what went into making an album or who inspires you, you know, all of these things push us rappers on the edge.
Wild animals often sustain life-threatening injuries caused by humans, mostly from eating discarded trash or being hit by a car. Bald eagles are no exception. The Wildlife Center of Virginia nursed one of these majestic birds until it was healthy enough to return to the wild. And we were lucky enough to witness its release.
Well, today was a great celebration. Not only was it a celebration of the successful rehabilitation, medical care of an adult bald eagle, a breeding age bird that was returned to her home territory. So we hope that if she has a nest in the area, a mate in the area, that she can move back into that territory, recover her partnership with that mate, and carry on contributing to her species. But the bottom line is she's free, and she has the opportunity to fulfill her legacy as a wild animal. Bald eagles are perhaps the greatest conservation success story we've had in the United States. It's our national symbol, chosen in 1782 to represent the United States. It's on our flagpoles, it's on so many logos of businesses, football teams named after it. The top award in scouting is the Eagle Scout Award. We revere the bird, and yet as a nation we drove it to the brink of extinction. So we now have the proof that if we care and if we act, we can bring back those species we have driven to the brink. The bald eagle population is no longer endangered, no longer threatened. It's stable and growing in almost all of its range. Here in the eastern United States, the population is growing to the point that all of the remaining habitat and the tidal rivers of these various states in which it lives, those habitats are full. So as the population grows, the eagle population is moving further inland, away from the large bodies of water. And people are now seeing them in places where they've never been seen. The eagle we released today had been seriously injured as a result of an automobile impact. She was almost certainly eating roadkill, and along came a speeding automobile, and that really doesn't bode well for the eagle. She had massive trauma to soft tissue of her chest and body, internal injuries, bruising to her lungs, a lot of fluid in her chest cavity. So when she came in, we were not at all sure she was going to survive. But I can tell you, this was one tough bird. She was a fighter from day one, and she did recover. We managed to keep her in captivity for 5 months, providing her with food, shelter, and indeed simply the time to recover.
1, 2, 3.
Well, that brings us to the close of the show. We'll leave you tonight with some aerial views of fantastic Virginia waterfalls. We'll see you next time right here on Hey Virginia. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kate Martin.
Hey Virginia is sponsored in part by
Everence Financial is grateful to serve this community. As a faith-rooted financial services organization, we're dedicated to helping members grow more confident futures with their values in mind. A community that's doing better together.
I'm coming home. There's a place where I can come home, where the foliage grow and the people are so warm.